debates and decisions that are shaping our continent now in Europeans.
This is Sellafield in the north of England, a name long synonymous with Britain's nuclear history. Today its main activity is reprocessing nuclear waste and decommissioning. The last reactor here closed down 4 years ago. But now Sellafield could get a second lease on its nuclear life because of global warming. EU members have pledged to reduce gas emissions by 20% by 2020. That's less than 15 years away. Bill Hamilton heads the Communications Department for Britain's Nuclear Decommissioning Agency. He says Sellafield is mired in history.
This site was initially the place where Britain started to construct its own independent nuclear weapons in the 1950s. It then became the first place on the planet to have a nuclear power station that provided electricity to the national grid, and it lit up 2 local towns here along the coast. It's a really this place, Sellafield, is the heart, the home of the UK's nuclear history.
But Sellafield's history is not without controversy. This is the Windscale chimney where a fire broke out in 1957. At the fire's peak, 11 tons of uranium were ablaze. Farmers in the area had to throw out contaminated products. That was just one of the 21 serious incidents reported at Sellafield since 1950. There were never any casualties, but the accidents raised serious doubts over management competence. But even with such doubts, a bigger one is the UK's ability to meet environmental targets without using more nuclear energy. Stephen Stretton is a member of Environmentalists for Nuclear Energy. He warns 2 cubic kilometers of oil is burned into the air per year. He likens that to a major forest fire burning for 100 years.
We're missing the bigger picture, the picture of an Earth that's in serious trouble. We'll need a lot more than just nuclear energy to save the planet. But nuclear power is the only secure, long-term form of energy, and that gives you a reliable source for our future.
While it may be a reliable source, opponents worry about unreliable solutions to nuclear waste. In Sellafield's Cumbria region, Martin Forwood helped found CORE 26 years ago. It stands for Cumbrians Opposed to a Radioactive Environment. He says Sellafield proves that the UK and other countries still can't guarantee nuclear safety if new reactors are built.
We wouldn't expect to have a power station up and running in the UK until probably 2020. Even then, if the UK had its way, if the government had its way, and there were, say, 10 reactors built, figures show that they would only produce a CO2 reduction of about 4%. So when you put together all these, what I would call the downsides, the build time for the reactors, the cost of them, the very, very small contribution they're going to make to CO2 reductions, you have to ask yourself, why on earth go down that line when there are so many much, much better alternatives?
One alternative is wind farms. Cumbria alone has 11. These turbines, which are just north of Sellafield, are over 100 meters high, and they are also causing political turbulence. Cumbria is at the heart of England's Lake District. Its unspoiled beauty is a major attraction for tourism, which provides a large source of income. Developers have tried to get wind farms approved just along the lake region. They were turned down. Opponents argue they're inefficient, that energy produced from wind costs twice as much as energy from most fossil fuels. This means that 3/4 of the wind business has to be subsidized. Eric Robson is chairman of the Cumbria Tourist Board.
What worries me personally about wind farms is that they just don't seem to stack up in terms of getting down the carbon footprint, of doing their bit for climate change. Because self-evidently, if there's no wind, a wind farm doesn't work. If there's too much wind, you have to shut them down because the blades blow off. They don't start on their own. There's something called hot rotation. So they actually are importers of power to get them started. And at the end of the day, the most compelling argument against them, for me, is that I've seen figures which seem to be true, which suggest that wind farms, in their design operating life, will never make back the amount of energy that it takes to build and install them.
Jill Perry, an avid environmentalist, disagrees. She supports the wind farms and claims that so do 80% of the locals. Yet Perry agrees that wind farms cannot be the only solution and that energy consumption has to be reduced. She's also dead set against nuclear and believes the government is opting for the easy and irresponsible way to fight global warming.
I grew up inside the national park on a farm, and my father was one of the farmers that had to throw away all the milk that was contaminated with radioactivity because of the Windscale fire in 1957. I think that really set the whole tone for the way I feel about nuclear power. But it's not just the risk of catastrophic accidents, it's also the regular discharges of radioactivity into the environment.
Well, clearly we have got a major challenge in cleaning up the 50 years of Britain's nuclear legacy. But we are doing this challenge on behalf of the UK taxpayer. So first of all, it has to be done safely. That's the first priority all the time. It's first, second, last. The one priority is doing this safely. However, given that, we have to do this with due accord to what the taxpayer has to pay for this. So this is a major cost. There's a multi-billion-pound clean-up. Latest estimates are around the £70 billion mark.
Sellafield employs some 10,000 people. If the UK government does not approve a new generation of reactors, most of these jobs will vanish once the cleanup task ends in about 40 years. Even nuclear supporters agree the reactors won't be cheap. But the UK estimates that it will be importing almost 90% of its natural gas and oil by 2025. That's about the same time most of its current nuclear reactors will have shut down. Cumbria's nuclear and economics counsellor says he doesn't see any alternatives.
I think there's got to be a future for nuclear. We're not going to get it all from non-fossil fuels, and if we're looking at the carbon footprint, I think we've got to go down that route. Because the other thing that is very important is security of supply, because I don't think that a lot of the natural resources are as secure as all that. Certainly wind will blow one day and it's switched off exactly when you need the energy. So I think from security of supply you do need nuclear. It is expensive at times, but it is clean from that point of view, and I think it probably is the future.
If a new reactor is built at Sellafield, engineers say they will have to run cables under the Lake District to connect the plant to the national grid. That will cost almost €150 million. Yet another reminder that future energy policies to save the environment will be anything but cheap.